What is the sociological imagination? This will be a short introduction to this key idea within sociology, explaining a little bit about the origins and how this concept is essential for sociological thinking. Now, the sociological imagination was a concept introduced by the American sociologist C Wright Mills, and essentially it was an ability to think away from the familiar routines of everyday life. What this is saying is that we should look at something beyond our own understanding, try and look at something from a completely new perspective. So in order to develop such a skill within sociology, you need to be able to free yourself from your own understanding, your own context of how you see the world, how you understand experiences and events in that world, and try to look at it from a different point of view. Ultimately, what this is suggesting is we should try and think outside of the box. Now, in 1959, C Wright Mills wrote The Sociological Imagination, a book based around this concept. In this, he wrote, "Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both." Ultimately, Mills was challenging all the sociological thinking of the time and encouraging people to use the sociological imagination to alter their perspective and to try and understand the world from other points of view. And one of the definitions that Mills uses for the sociological imagination is this a vivid awareness of the relationship between experience and wider society. Ultimately, what he's arguing is that it's all about taking a step back from your experience, your understanding of an event, and trying to look at the whole picture rather than the very narrow view we tend to hold about particular issues, events, or social groups. So most people understand their lives as being unique. Falling in love, the type of jobs we choose, the jobs we miss out on, the types of family we hold, the people we live with, the friends we make. And all these choices are shaped by the time and the place in which we live. So we can argue that they're culturally relative because they're shaped by time and place. We can also say they're social constructions because they're shaped by the society we live in. And people rarely think about the choices we make as a result of institutions, about history, about society. We often tend to think about issues like being homeless, unemployment, pregnancies, addiction, incarceration as a result of the individuals making pathways that deviate from norms and values, and we blame the individual for these events. What Mills argues is that the sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within society. So it helps us to think about the historical context, the social context, relationships, and try to understand the full picture before making a judgment. Another quote by Mills is the sociological imagination requires us above all to think ourselves away from familiar routines to our daily lives in order to look at them anew. So we need to look beyond our own personal experiences and understandings of an issue and look at them from a new perspective. So as you move from the first person, which is your view and how you understand it, to the third person, which is a wider understanding, looking at all the different angles, looking at it from different positions and different points of view, you start to understand how other people might see or experience or understand an issue. And as a result, you'll develop a greater sense of empathy for other people. Now, the concept of the sociological imagination can be applied to any behaviour, any issue, any event. So let's take a cup of coffee as an example here. Now, I love coffee. Personally, I drink it a lot, gives me energy. It's become customary for me to make a big pot of fresh coffee on a Sunday morning, do it all proper from scratch. And that's my understanding, that's my experience and my connection with coffee. Now, I need to look at this, or we would look at this, beyond my personal understanding, beyond my first person perspective. And what we could argue is that coffee is not just a drink, and it's not just got personal meaning to me, but it has a wider symbolic value in society, historically, socially. So some of these could be, when you meet to have coffee, you're not meeting just to have coffee, you're meeting to have a social exchange and an interaction with other people. Inviting someone up for coffee is an invitation to maybe engage in intimate relationships. Coffee contains caffeine, which is a drug, so the caffeine in it gives people energy. That can obviously be addictive, and again, there's this notion that some people view it as a drug and therefore would not want to drink it. Maybe for a barista or someone working in a coffee shop, coffee is a means of paying the bills until they can find something else. If you're a farmer growing coffee beans, it might be essential for your family, it's your livelihood, it's your way of survival. We could look at it from globalization's point of view, that coffee is a global business. The coffee beans are grown in one country, shipped and moved to another, sold to someone else. So this is a global enterprise. And we can even look at it in terms like green crime and environmental impacts, that the growth of coffee and growing coffee has a big impact on deforestation. So hopefully this is a very brief introduction to sociological imagination, but hopefully it might give you an idea of what it means, how it works, and how you could apply the sociological imagination to something of your own choosing. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps, and again, leave a like if it found this helpful at all.